Welcome back to Nick's Algebraics. Today I'm going to talk about literal equations, but before I get into that, let me know what you think about me showing my face in the comment section below. Now, let's talk about what a literal equation is. So a literal equation is an equation that has at least two variables. And to rewrite a literal equation, we have to solve for one of the variables in terms of the other variable, and you'll see what that means in a second. It's literally so much fun. So here's a literal equation, 3y plus 4x equals 9. And we're going to solve for y. To solve for y, we have to get rid of 4x. So to do that, we have to subtract 4x on both sides. So 4x is going to cancel out, and you're left with 3y equals 9 minus 4x. And now to isolate y, we have to divide by 3 on both sides. So y equals 9 minus 4x divided by 3. You could simplify this further by dividing each term by 3, because this equals 9 over 3 minus 4x over 3. And 9 divided by 3 equals 3. So we know that y equals 3 minus 4 over 3x. Let's do another example. So in this literal equation, there's x on both sides, and we want to solve for x. So to do that, let's put all the terms with x on one side of the equation. So let's subtract xz on both sides. So xz will cancel out, and that's going to equal 3x minus 2y minus xz equals 5. And remember, to get x on one side, we have to also get rid of the y. So we're going to add 2y on both sides. So now we're left with 3x minus xz equals 5 plus 2y. So now that we have x on the same side, we can take out an x. So you're left with 3 minus z times x equals 5 plus 2y. And since we're multiplying x by 3 minus z, we could divide both sides by 3 minus z to cancel it out. So that means we're left with x equals 5 plus 2y over 3 minus z. And you might also remember that you can't divide by 0 because it's undefined. So that means the denominator, which is 3 minus z, cannot equal 0. So that means that z cannot equal 3, because 3 minus 3 would be 0, and you can't divide by 0. So let's do another example. So here's the formula for the surface area S of a rectangular prism. So that means that the surface area equals 2 times the length times width plus 2 times the length times height plus 2 times the width times height. And let's solve the formula for the length L. Since there's two L's in here, right here and here, we have to get L on the same side of the equation. So the only thing that doesn't have L is this term, 2WH. So let's subtract that on both sides. So you're left with S minus 2WH equals 2LW plus 2LH. And now that we have L on one side of the equation, we can take out an L. So you're going to be left with 2W plus 2H. And since we're multiplying L by 2W plus 2H, we can divide it by 2W plus 2H to cancel it out. you're going to be left with S minus 2WH over 2W plus 2H equals L. Okay, let's do the next problem. The largest yo-yo in the world is about 11.39 meters in circumference. Find the radius of the yo-yo. So yo-yos take the shape of a circle, and we know the circumference, and we're trying to find the radius. So the formula we can use for this is the formula for the circumference of a circle, which is C equals 2 pi r. And we're trying to find r, so we have to isolate r by dividing by 2 pi on both sides. So we know that r equals circumference divided by 2 pi. And we know that the circumference is 11.39 meters. So for C, we're going to substitute 11.39 meters. If we round pi to 3.14, then 11.39 divided by 2 pi is approximately equal to 1.81 meters. Okay, let's do the next problem. You deposit $5,000 in an account that earns simple interest. After 6 months, the account earns $162.50 in interest. What is the annual interest rate? In the problem, it uses the word simple interest, so we have to use the simple interest formula. So that is I equals PRT. So I is for interest, and P is for principal, which is the original starting amount of investment, and R is for the rates, the annual interest rates, and T is for time. We're trying to find the annual interest rates, R. So let's isolate it by dividing by PT. So you're left with R equals I over PT. So I equals $162.50 because we earn $162.50 in interest. So we're going to substitute that. And the principal, which remember is the original amount, is $5,000 because that's how much we deposited. So P is 5,000. And time is, it says after 6 months. But we're looking at it annually. So we have to have the time in years. So 6 months is half a year. So time is going to be 0.5. So when you divide that all out, you're going to get that R equals 0.065. So the annual interest rate is 0.065, or you can convert this into a percent and say that it's 6.5%. So let's do one last problem. A truck driver averages 100 kilometers per hour while delivering freight to a customer. So freight is just goods transported by truck. On the return trip, the driver averages 80 kilometers per hour due to construction. The total driving time is 6.6 hours. How long does each trip take? We know that the total driving time is 6.6 hours. When you add the delivering time to the returning time, you're going to get 6.6 hours. So the delivering time right here, we can call that T1. And the returning time, we'll call that T2. And when you add them together, you're going to get 6.6 hours. And we're trying to find what T1 and T2 is, how long each trip takes. So what we know about T, using the distance formula, distance equals rate times time, if you divide both sides by R to isolate T, we know that T equals distance over rate. So instead of t, let's substitute distance over rate. So distance over rate delivering plus the distance over rate returning equals 6.6 hours. And we know that the rate when he was delivering is 100 kilometers per hour. So instead of r, we're going to substitute 100. And the rate returning is a little bit slower because of construction. It's 80 kilometers per hour. So we're going to substitute 80 for r. And now we can solve this. So to add these two together, we have to find the LCD, the least common denominator. So let's find the LCD of 180. So let's write the multiples of 100. There's 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on. And for 80, there is 80, 160, 240, 320, and 400. So as you can see, the least common denominator is 400. So for 100 to get to 400, you multiply by 4. And for 80 to get to 400, we multiply by 5. So we're going to multiply this one by 5 over 5. And we're going to multiply this one by 4 over 4. So you're going to be left with 4d over 400 plus 5d over 400 equals 6.6. So they both have a denominator of 400, so we can combine them. 4d over 400 plus 5d over 400 is going to equal 9d over 400, which equals 6.6. So to find d, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 400 over 9 to cancel it out. Or you could just separately multiply 400 and divide by 9. So you're going to be left with d equals 6.6 times 400 over 9. So d is going to equal 293.3 repeating kilometers. But we're not trying to find d. We're trying to find how long each trip takes. So we have to plug it back into the distance formula. So we know that the distance it took to deliver was 293.3 repeating kilometers. And the rate was 100 kilometers per hour. And we want to figure out the time. So to do that, we're going to divide by 100 kilometers per hour on both sides. So kilometers will cancel out, and you're left with hours, which is what time is measured in. So 293.3 repeating divided by 100 is approximately 2.93 hours. And that's to deliver. It went slower returning, so we have to plug it back in again. Distance equals rate times time. So the distance, again, is 293.3 repeating kilometers. And the rate returning this time was slower because of construction. It was 80 kilometers per hour times t. So we're going to divide by 80 kilometers per hour on both sides. So kilometers were canceled out, and you're left with hours just like we wanted. So 293.3 repeating divided by 80 is about 3.67 hours. And that's it. So the time delivering was 2.93 hours, and the time returning was a little longer because of construction. It was 3.67 hours. And if you add those together, you get a total of 6.6 hours. So don't forget to subscribe, like the video, turn on your notifications, and comment down below. I'll post a worksheet with the solutions, and I'll see you later.